First, title your page, Review Counting Atoms. Most of this video should be a review. We had to use these skills last unit when we were calculating the molar mass. First thing we're going to review is some things about ions and crisscrossing charges. So if we remember, ions are atoms with a positive or negative charge on them. And we look at the charges by looking at the periodic table and figuring out, is it going to be closer to 8 valence electrons to add or to get rid of valence electrons. So for example, if we have Na and Cl, we look at the periodic table. Na is in column 1, that means it has a +1 charge. Cl is in our second to last column, that means it has a -1. When we bring the subscripts down, we crisscross them, we get Na1, Cl1. Now, we do not write 1s in our subscripts, which means the thing we're going to end up with here is NaCl. Okay, let's do another example. Now we're going to do magnesium and bromine. Magnesium is in our second column on the periodic table, which means it has a +2 charge. Bromine's in the same one as chlorine, so it has a -1. I crisscross my charges and I bring down just the number, so I end up with Mg1, Br2. Now again, I don't write my 1s, so I get rid of that and I just have Mg-Br2. When we go to count our atoms, we look at the subscripts. The subscripts only apply or only count for the number they're attached to. What that means is in our example up above, magnesium doesn't have a subscript, so there's 1 of them. Bromine has the 2 subscript, which means there's 2 of them. Okay, now we're going to do a few more examples here. So if we have copper and chlorine, this copper is going to have a +2 charge. Our chlorine, as we said above, has a -1 charge. I crisscross my charges and I get Cu, Cl2. So now when I count, I have 1 Cu and 2 Cls. Another example. Potassium and phosphate. Potassium is on the periodic table as a +1. Phosphate is a polyatomic, so I look for the charge on the purple sheet, and it has a -3. So I got K3PO4. Now when I count my atoms then, the 3 applies to the K. The P doesn't have a subscript on it, so it's a 1, and the O is a 4. Another example, copper and hydroxide. Copper, like we said before, is a +2. Hydroxide is also a polyatomic, so it's a -1. I looked up that on the purple sheet. I crisscross my charges and I get Cu, and then when I put parentheses for OH, and the 2 goes outside the parentheses. Now when I have a 2 outside the parentheses, it applies to both things within them. So I have 1 copper, 2 oxygens, and 2 hydrogens. Our final example here is copper and phosphate. My copper, like above, has a +2, phosphate has a -3. I go ahead and crisscross my charges, and I get Cu3, then I have to put parentheses, PO4, close on up my parentheses, and a 2. So now when I do my counting, copper has that 3 attached to it. The 2 outside the parentheses applies into the P, and the 2 applies to the O4 as well. So since I have an O4, I have to multiply those, and I get O8.